Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face in my card making space. And an Easter theme card using a ridiculously cute stamp set that I combined with a very much oldie but goodie favorite. If you aren't familiar, for some reason, I have a thing for this mushroom stems die set. I have done many videos. Roughly a couple dozen. I'm not sure. I'll know when I go to edit and upload this how many there's been. I will link to that playlist at the end of this video so you can check it out because all sorts of ideas using it. And yeah, did some coloring. I combined my Olos and my Copic markers. I used a 3D embossing folder, 2 types of splatter, pigment inks, all the things. I had fun. So, as usual, I will have links to everything I used in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps the garage heated, enables me to keep bringing out content. And yeah, let's get into making these cards. So this Eggstra special stamp set is huge. It's a 6x8 stamp set. And I legit cannot get over how utterly adorable all these little characters are. And yeah, I couldn't put my finger on it. And then when I posted just sort of a sneak peek of the images I colored, it was mentioned like puffballs. And I was like, that's what it was. These remind me of those little puffball chicks that they were like pom-poms. You know, I remember having them as a kid. They were like little pom-poms that had all the little accessories, glued to them. It's been decades. I don't think they have made those things in years. They were probably choking hazards. But I used to love them. I used to play with them. That's what these remind me of. Anyway, also, for whatever reason, I've had the stamp set sitting here for a little while, and I kept overestimating. Like, I was like, oh, that's going to be a lot of coloring. I don't know, which I've mentioned before in other videos that I find it funny when I kind of psych myself out of using certain stamp sets because of the coloring, when that's what I do. I've done hundreds and hundreds of videos over the years coloring, and I like to color. I don't know, y'all. Sometimes it's just my own brain is ridiculous. Anyway, I stamp the images onto some Simon Says stamp, smooth white 120-pound cardstock with Simon's Intense Block ink, which is a alcohol marker friendly ink. And I'm going to use a combination of Olos and Copic markers to color these in. Because I started with my Olos, and then the colors I wanted, I don't have. Olo does not have them because I have all the Olo colors. Do you need multiple brands of alcohol markers? No, I didn't either. I just like them. Anyway, so I'm going to use a mix though. You can interchange these. They work fine. I had no problems. My coloring, I have super sped this up. In editing, this is like 800 times faster than I actually colored. But yeah, I super sped it up because also, I'm off camera half the time. I was just enjoying the process and not really paying attention. Also, I don't do really any blending. I kept these as super simple as possible because, I had just had it in my head that I didn't have time to color all these images, wanted to keep it simple, whatever. But also, to kind of prove the point, you don't need, 1, you don't need all the things. 2, you don't need multiple brands of the same stuff. 3, when it comes to specifically alcohol markers, you don't need 3, 4 color blends. Do you get more definition and depth when you have those, multiple shades for a blend? Yes. But I did all of this with 2 color blends, and I didn't do any actual blending. You can still get decent results and play around and just slowly work up your collection. And I know I say this as someone that needs to have all the shades of all the colors. But yeah, is what it is. So the reason too why I chose both Copics and Olos, because like I said, I wanted certain colors because I was kind of matching these colors to the inks I'm planning on using. So and they're specific pastel colors. So I was even swiping the inks right on my cardstock because this blue shade, it took me a bit, and I ended up going with Copics for that. And same with the greens. I was kind of jumping around to find colors that will go with the inks so that everything coordinates nicely. So I just kept working my way back and forth with these little characters, and that really also just brought them to life. You know, they were already cute to begin with, but once color was added, it was like, okay, just stop it. Stop it right now. These are too cute. I love it. So once I got them completely colored in, I pulled out my white gel pen, which is my Jelly Roll 10, like the widest gel pen, and just added random dots and highlights. No, definitely no light source considerations whatsoever. I just added them wherever I thought it would look cute. So dots, highlights, little just bits here and there. I, scribbled on top of their little fuzzy outlines, just to give it a little extra something. And again, just worked my way around until I had all of the images, touched up with the white gel pen. And then once I'm done with my gel pen, I used the coordinating wafer dies to die cut all of these. However, this is another one of those sets where these are really easy to fussy cut. They're little blobs. So yeah, if I didn't have the wafer dies, I would have just fussy cut them, and it wouldn't have taken that long at all. So yeah, that tutu, seriously, just stop it. Just that one image alone just makes this whole set, but they're all just cute. So die cut everything, set it aside. Now, the inks I'm using. These are Simon Says Stamp's Pastel pigment inks. They came out with a set of 4 months ago. It was a while ago. I honestly don't remember. And honestly, I put them with all my other inks and forgot about them. I forgot about them. And then I have had some of you asking me about these inks, and I was like, that's right. This is my first time using them. I unwrapped them making this video because, apologies. I legit forgot I had them. I'm a disorganized mess. Welcome to the chaos. So for this one, I'm using is it Radial dots? I think that's the actual name of the embossing folder. Yeah, Simon's 3D embossing folder. This is the Radial dots pattern. And I applied the ink to the flat side of the embossing folder. When you've got a 3D embossing folder, it depends on the brand, because they're not all equal, but most of them will have a sort of smoother side to it. And there's a ton of ways. And if I remember, I'll link to my playlist with embossing folders, which has I think over 100 videos, because there's so many ways. But you can either apply the ink directly to the flat side of the folder, like I'm showing here. I'm also going to pull out my brayer. There's just so many ways. So I did that with the pastel blue. I ran that through with white cardstock, and then I wanted to just add more ink. So I did it a second time, and the cardstock, it just fits in that other side. You saw me kind of click it in. I'm going to do it again. So I just kept going back and adding. Doing it this way, it's going to depend on the type of ink you use, the folder, different things, because again, these folders are plastic, and the nature of that is for inks to just beat up on it. You're not going to smooth coverage. I remember trying this quite some time ago, years ago. And I remember being really frustrated because in my head, I was wanting a perfectly smooth, solid color. And then the areas of the embossing, not color, Do not expect that. Don't set that expectation. That is really difficult to achieve. You can do it. It's going to take so many passes, and I just didn't bother. I wasn't aiming for perfection at all. I just wanted color and texture. So that's where I brought out the brayer to try that. The thing to remember when you're applying the ink, if you're just using the ink pad, don't press it, especially these ones, because they're a pigment ink. It's a foam ink pad, so it's soft. You don't want to press it because you don't want to smush that ink into those debossed areas. But then another option is to use a brayer, which I hardly ever use my brayers. It's just not something I ever reach for, even though they're great little tools to have, and I'm glad I had it. Makes it a little easier and faster to apply the ink. So with the second cardstock panel, I just used the brayer. Rolled that along, ran it through the machine, did it a second time, and it works. It works. It's just another way. And you can get creative too and like mix colors. I just used this pastel blue color because that's what I was wanting to do. But you could roll in more than one color and have fun and create like, sort of an ombre blend, things like that. And then, yeah, the pattern or the embossed cardstock, it just fits into the other side. And then I just close the folder, run it through my machine. So I've got my backgrounds and there's just so much texture. It's just interesting. So I did that. And then I also die cut the same smooth white cardstock with my mushroom stems wafer dies. Like, this is a die set I've loved so much that I have purchased a second set. And I don't know why. I genuinely have no idea why I like this set so much, but I do. And I've done now I filmed my intro earlier. Now that I'm doing the voiceover, I've done over 20 videos using this set in various ways. And again, I'll have that playlist linked at the end of this video. And so for these little mushroom caps, I'm using the other pastel colors. So the pastel yellow, the green, and the pink. Blending brushes, I have a second set of blending brushes. I have one set that I keep for dye inks. So like Simon's Positively Saturated inks, regular distress inks, etc. And then I have a set of blending brushes that I keep for pigment inks, which is mostly oxides because I don't really work with pigment inks. And now these four that are new to me. Not super new on the market, but new to me. Yeah, separate blending brushes because I don't wash my brushes. No, and you don't want to mix your brushes between those two types of inks, like dye inks and pigment inks, because the pigments from your brushes could get into your dye inks and over time can ruin them. So unless you want to wash your brushes in between, which if you're up for that, wonderful. I don't have the time or patience or energy. So I got a second set. It makes life easier. So I've got like things planned out. I also pulled out the FIDDLY leaf. I think that's what it's called. Is that what it's called? The FIDDLY leaf wafer die, which I've also used like a million times. I love it. It's so cute. When I die cut it from this heavyweight cardstock, it didn't just like pop out, which is nice because it is FIDDLY, literally. It's very delicate. So I just left it in the scrap cardstock, blended on the pastel green ink, and then removed it. I will say too, because like I used the ink on the folders, on the mushroom caps, on these little FIDDLY leaf die cuts. This ink dries quite quickly. Like years and years and years ago, back in the olden times, when pigment inks were a lot more prevalent in the card making industry, I remember being a lot more frustrated with pigment inks because they took, for me, a lot of the ones I had took forever to dry. Like if you didn't heat set them, they would sometimes take days. Like they just took forever to dry. And I think that's also a reason why mentally I was avoiding using these inks because I was like, I just don't have the patience for any of this. These dry really quickly. I was honestly surprised. I thought I was going to have to heat set like everything. I didn't heat set anything with these inks. I just went on, I assembled those mushrooms, the background, the little FIDDLY leaf pieces, like they dry quite quickly. Technology has improved. Anyway, I assembled my little scenes on here. So I popped up the mushrooms with thin foam squares. I adhered my little FIDDLY leaves. And then my little peeps, I adhered with thicker foam squares. So I built a ton of dimension. They're cute. And with the mushrooms, it kind of creates the illusion that they are the size of those little puff balls. Whatever they're like, I don't even know if they had a name. I can picture them in my head. And they were very small. Tiny, tiny little like pom-poms almost, And they had little legs and a little beak and little eyes. And I used to play with those all the time. I loved them. And yeah, if I ever came across them again, I'd probably like put some on display or something because they're the cutest little things. Although I've got these stamps, so I can just put these cards on display because they're adorable. These little characters, that little tutu slays me. Love it. Anyway, after I'd assembled these card fronts, of course I'm going to add splatter. So I stuck these in my splat box, got some white gouache on my palette, added a bit of water to that just to thin it out so I can actually splatter with it. So swirl that up really good with my fan brush. And then I added a pretty heavy hand of the white splatter because A lot of it you're not necessarily going to see. You can see it more in real life, but with all the texture and everything going on these cards, the white splatter isn't super obvious, but you can definitely see it on the mushrooms, and then it does get on the little characters. I did think about masking them off so that I don't get splatter all over them, but you guys know me. One, I'm too lazy to do that, and two, yay, splatter. So you could stop here. Shimmer splatter would look really pretty too. I went with black, which I know freaks some people out, but I went for it, and I don't regret it. Worth it. So I added some black splatter to my palette, thinned that out with water as well. And I did start a lot lighter with this. You know, I'm being pretty gentle, just seeing how far I want to take it, because black splatter can get pretty intense. You know, and this is very pastel, sort, you know, cutesy, etc. But you can see I keep like hesitating and then going back in. It's like I hold off, I look at it, and I can I stop now? No, we're gonna keep doing it. You know, again, just it's fun. So when I set those aside to dry, and I stamped the little Easter greetings sentiment from that set onto the remaining white cardstock from when I stamped the images originally, and I stamped that with the black ink, and then die cut it with sentiment label wafer dies. That's another die set that I purchased a second set, so I can do things like this, like die cut both at once. It's a convenience thing. Again, like I always say, you don't need all the things. Do you need doubles of things? No. I just, every once in a while, certain things that I gravitate towards, you know, and I keep using over and over and over again, a lot of times I'll purchase a second set just to make things a little more convenient. So I popped the sentiments into place with some thin foam squares, move that one little egg, and yes, I'm very aware that those little eggs that I placed, it kind of looks like the little chicks are like kicking it or rolling it from where I placed it, and I'm kind of okay with that. Anyway, on the insides of my card bases are top folding white A2 note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I'm going to stamp the Your Extraordinary, love it, sentiment with black ink. And then I had a couple of the images that I had colored in the beginning. I'm going to stick those on the inside as well. And I took there's a little chirp sentiment in the set. And that I decided to place just on an acrylic block. I'm not going to use my MISTI for this because I want to stamp it multiple times using those pastel pigment inks. So I set my little character. He's going to sit on the sentiment there. And then I can like stamp the little chirp with these inks kind of radiating out from the little character. And yeah, if I wanted on camera, it's very pale. In real life, you can see it no problem. But I did stamp it very lightly as well. If I'd wanted it to be more like solid color, that's where the MISTI would have come in handy, because then you can ink it up and restamp it, you know, multiple times. But I was fine with that. I thought it just added that little extra something. And funny enough, the great big sentiments in this set, I love them. I had meant to use them, but in the end, they just didn't fit. They were too big to fit on these cards. So yeah, hopefully I'll get more time. Anyway, stamp that on the insides. Adhered the little images just to finish it off. Like, seriously, look at him. He's just so cute. He's so cute. So adhered those, and then adhered the card fronts to the card bases, and that was it. I didn't add any bling or anything, mostly because that embossing folder was so textured that I didn't want to try to glue. I had confetti picked out to use, but it was kind of annoying to try and like glue it into place. And then I was like, you know what? There's a lot going on. We got texture and splatter and cute little images and mushrooms and a little bit of greenery. And then the insides are all adorable. And these were super fun to make. So as always, thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton. I appreciate it. Links to everything, as always, are in the description box below. And then the playlists I mentioned, I'll have those linked in the end screen at the very end. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!